roster building and the coaching staff and all that?
I mean, a couple more initials by the name, outside of GM, but the role's kind of pretty similar, just in terms of the way we're building and the way we work. Still view Callie very much as my partner, and it's been cool through this transition to get to know him, get to know the coaches and what they're looking for, and how that's going to help us as scouts. We're really deep at receiver in this draft and O-line as a whole, which are two areas that we're going to be focusing on. But it's a really deep class, a lot of talented young men, and we're looking forward to meeting with them throughout this process. If you look at it strategically, it's about the value, right? So if you're sitting there and there's a receiver there, knowing that there's a deep O-line class, it's like, all right, where can we supplement this position later? So it's about playing those two parts off of each other, whether that's in free agency as well, in the draft. So it's about trying to mix and match those two pieces. Well, I mean, first of all, like Tyjae is a dude that I just described. Like, he's very passionate about football. He loves the game. He's a hard worker, and I think you guys that have gotten to know him know that's how he's wired, and you love that about him. Tyjae's one of those guys that's always in the building. I know there were a lot of concerns about his knee coming out, and that was the big question this time of year and after we drafted him. But we're talking about a guy that never missed a practice, never missed a game, and he's, for lack of a better way to put it, he's made of the right shit. And those are the type of guys that we want to have in our program. We're taking advantage of the time, right? You only get 20 minutes here to spend with them. So, staying away from the, hey, where are you from? Where'd you go to high school? We have that information written right in front of us. Let's get to the questions that we really need answered. You know what I mean? If we're talking work ethic or if they have any quote unquote red flags, that's here. And then also being able to get those same meetings in top 30 when we bring them in our building. And that way you have them for a whole day, and even visiting with them, maybe at their pro days or prior to their pro days. So getting as much exposure to the person. The tape is the tape. We've seen it. We've seen it in the fall. We're watching it to this very day. But getting as much exposure to the people is going to help us.
Last 2 years, how important that spot is.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to continue to look. We have Malik in-house, and, I mean, we're not going to go into training camp with just two quarterbacks. We're going to bring another quarterback in at some point, whether that's through the draft, whether that's through free agency, to compete. And we expect all three of those guys in the room to compete and elevate the level of that room.
You need a veteran? You need a veteran guy to kind of go into that mix because you've got two young ones?
I think we're going to mix and match and see what's the best fit. Again, we're still in the evaluation process. Like I said, when we get back, we have our free agency meeting with our coaches, and that'll give us a little bit more insight in how we're going to do it moving forward, but we're still very much in the evaluating process. Well, free agency comes first. You know what I mean? Free agency comes first. So, again, it's about creating where's the value. Where's the better value? Is it draft? Is it free agency? With free agency, it's how young is the guy and how long can we get him, under contract. So it's a balancing, of the two. And like we talked about the depth of the O-line, in this draft, and we'll, mirror that with the depth of the free agent draft, free agent class. It's like which is the better way for us to go, and are we trying to fill a temporary need or we're trying to build it out for the long?
Not a problem.
No, I mean that's a part of it. Like, we got a young offensive coach who's an offensive-minded coach who's going to need weapons to bring his offense to life, and so we have a responsibility, in finding that. I think we were, lucky to get a guy like D-Hop, and we know D-Hop's a little older, but he produced at a high level, had a 1,000-yard season. I think he had 6 touchdowns, one of his highest yards per carry, average, probably in recent years, but probably highest in his career. But again, we want to make sure that we're still explosive, that we can make plays down the football field, which we feel is going to help our offense and our young quarterback.
Where do you see the backup quarterbacks?
Well, if you look at Denard's background, Denard played DB. I was just talking with someone. All 3 of our DB coaches have played DB in the National Football League, so they know what it looks like and what it should be. And all those guys have coached at a high level, that position in the league. So, again, we need to add playmakers. We need to add guys that are going to be able to take away the ball and give us more opportunity to score points on offense.
Sorry, those positions.
Well, again, it's ongoing, and we don't know where we're going to end up. I think it's a little too early, to tell right now, because I think somebody asked if we're open for business, so we don't know if we're going to have more draft picks. You know what I mean? We don't know if we're going to have less. We don't know where we're going to fill, some initial holes in free agency. I think once we get a little bit closer to that process, we'll know really how far, we are away. It's easy to look at the roster now and say, oh, you got to fix this and you got to fix that, but it's how you're going to do it, and where those options come from. So I think we're a little early right now to say how far away we are.
Assessment and analysis.
Well, I think, it starts with the way, you structure the offseason, the way you structure practice, how long you're out there, workloads, reaching maximum speeds, and it's still an ongoing process in learning that. Like Callie had talked with you guys about, we're going to, get into the strength coach hiring process when we get back. But it's tying those two in, the training room, the strength coach, as well as the practice schedule, and how we can make that all marry and present and keep guys on the field. The injury, the injury thing, the concussion thing was a real deal. You know what I mean? I think we all saw that from the Pittsburgh game, and so those are the type of things you can't really prevent. But I do know that Treylon is off this offseason training with D-Hop and some other pros around the league, which I think will be good for him to see how other pros prepare and get ready for the season, so he can add that to his game. I've seen a couple clips of him running routes and doing stuff on, in the offseason. And for him, it's an offseason where he's not trying to get healthy. He can work on perfecting his craft as opposed to trying to get back to get healthy. I think we'd always look for a premier wide receiver, whether it's for the next 2 years, 3 years, or 10 years. Like Paul said, he just informed me there's been a problem for 25 years, and so we want to solve that. But again, in order for Will to be successful, he has to have playmakers around him, because he can't throw the ball to himself. He can't, hand the ball to himself, if you will. So we got to continue to add playmakers around.
As you involved in assistant coach,
Where we have it now, we have 8 draft picks, but adding more draft capital always helps.
Number 7 pick, or are you being nosy in regards to trade?
Honestly, I hadn't even thought about that till you just said it, and nobody's really been nosy, which can be a good or a bad thing. Which means that if they do plan on being nosy, it's going to come all at once. But like I said up there, like we owe it to to the organization to listen to any calls that may come. Just haven't gotten any yet.
And what's
probably been overstated about the whole getting along part. You know what I mean? It's not going to always be kumbaya. We're not going to all see things eye to eye, and we shouldn't. But it's being able to have those constructive conversations respectfully. And as long as they're held in that point, like we can do that. If you have myself, Chad, and A-Rob, or somebody, if you guys were to have a mic when the 3 of us are talking, you'd probably think we didn't like each other. You know what I mean? But it's that comes with respect, and for us having a new staff, we got to earn that with each other.